Emily sat in the sterile waiting room of the clinic, her heart pounding in her chest. The fluorescent lights overhead cast a harsh glare on the white walls, making the room feel even colder than it already was. She glanced at the clock on the wall, 3:47 p.m. The nurse had told her the results would be ready by now, but the anticipation was almost unbearable. Finally, the door to the office opened, and Dr. Thompson stepped out, holding a manila folder. He spotted Emily immediately and walked over with a professional smile. "Emily, right?" he asked, his voice calm. "Yes," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Thompson handed her the folder. "Here are your results. I suggest you take some time to go over them carefully." Emily took the folder, her hands trembling slightly. She thanked him and stood up, walking out of the clinic as quickly as she could manage. Once outside, she found a quiet spot under a tree and opened the folder. Her eyes scanned the pages, her breath catching in her throat when she saw the words paternity test results. The baby is 99.9% genetically related to Jonathan. Emily's world seemed to tilt on its axis. The baby was Jonathan's, not Mark's. She felt a whirlwind of emotions, relief, confusion, guilt, and fear all crashing into one another. How had this happened? She had been so sure that Mark was the father. Now, faced with the truth, she didn't know how to process it. She knew she had to tell Jonathan, but how? And what would he say? Emily arrived home later that evening, her mind still reeling from the shocking revelation. Jonathan was sitting on the couch, watching television. When she walked in, he looked up and smiled, but something in her expression must have alerted him. "What's wrong, Emily?" he asked, concern etching his features. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "Jonathan, there's something I need to tell you." He turned off the television and sat up, fully focused on her. "What is it?" Emily held up the folder. "I got the paternity test results back today." Jonathan's brow furrowed. "And?" She swallowed hard, her mouth dry. "The baby, it's yours." Jonathan stared at her for a long moment, processing her words. Then, slowly, a look of disbelief crossed his face. "Yours?" Emily nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "Yes, it's yours." Jonathan stood up abruptly, pacing the room. "How is that possible? I thought you were cheating on me with Mark." Emily shook her head, her voice breaking. "I don't know how this happened. I was so sure that Mark was the father, but the test, it says you're the father." Jonathan stopped pacing and turned to face her, anger and confusion warring on his face. "So, what now? You lied to me, Emily. You let me think I wasn't the father, that you were having an affair." Emily flinched at his accusation. "I made a mistake, Jonathan. I was scared and confused. I never meant to hurt you." Jonathan ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in every line of his body. "But you did hurt me, Emily. You betrayed my trust." Emily moved closer to him, reaching out to touch his arm. "Please, Jonathan, we can work through this. We just found out we're going to have a child together. Don't let this ruin everything." Jonathan pulled away from her touch, his expression hardening. "I need time to think. Emily, I need to figure out what I'm even feeling right now. Emily's heart ached at his distance. Okay, take all the time you need. Just, please, don't push me away. Jonathan looked at her, his eyes filled with a mixture of hurt and uncertainty. I won't make any decisions right now, but I need space. Emily, I need to sort through all of this. Emily nodded, tears streaming down her face. I understand. Jonathan turned and walked towards the bedroom, leaving Emily standing alone in the living room. She watched him go, her mind a chaotic mess of emotions. She had hoped for reconciliation, for forgiveness, but now she wasn't sure if that was even possible. As the days passed, Jonathan kept his distance, spending more and more time at work or locked away in the study. Emily tried to give him the space he needed, but the silence between them was deafening. She longed for him to talk to her, to explain what he was thinking, but he remained closed off. One evening, Emily couldn't take it anymore. She knocked on the study door, her heart pounding in her chest. Jonathan, can we talk? There was a long pause before he answered. Come in. Emily opened the door and stepped inside. Jonathan was sitting at his desk, papers scattered around him. He looked up as she entered, his expression guarded. What do you want, Emily? He asked, his tone cold. Emily took a deep breath, determined to break through the wall he had built between them. I need to know where we stand. Are we okay? Can we move forward from this? Jonathan leaned back in his chair, his gaze piercing. I don't know, Emily. I really don't. The lies, the betrayal, it's all too much to process right now. Emily's heart sank. I understand that, but I love you, Jonathan. I love you and our baby. Please, give us a chance. Jonathan's eyes softened slightly, but the doubt was still there. Do you even know who you love, Emily? Because right now, I don't think either of us does. Emily stepped closer to him, placing a hand on his desk. Then let's figure it out together. Let's heal together. Jonathan looked at her hand, then back up to her face. Emily, I need more time. Emily nodded, tears stinging her eyes. Take all the time you need. Just don't shut me out completely. Jonathan sighed, running a hand through his hair again. I won't, Emily, but right now, I need to be alone. Emily squeezed his hand gently. Okay, I'll be here when you're ready. She turned and left the study, closing the door behind her. As she walked down the hallway, she couldn't help but feel a sense of hopelessness. Would Jonathan ever forgive her? Would they ever find their way back to each other? The next morning, Emily woke up to an empty house. Jonathan had left early for work, leaving only a note on the kitchen counter. Went to work early. Will be home late. J. Emily crumpled the note in her hand, her heart heavy. She knew she had to give him space, but the loneliness was overwhelming. She missed him, missed their connection, missed the way things used to be. As the days turned into weeks, Emily struggled to maintain her composure. She threw herself into preparing for the baby, decorating the nursery, buying clothes and furniture. But no matter how busy she kept herself, the void left by Jonathan's absence was always there, gnawing at her. One night, Several weeks after the paternity test results, Emily heard the front door open. She rushed to the hallway, her heart racing with hope. Jonathan walked in, looking tired and withdrawn. "Jonathan," she breathed, her voice trembling. "Are you okay?" Jonathan looked at her, his expression unreadable. "Can we talk?" Emily nodded, leading him to the living room. They sat down on the couch, facing each other. The silence between them was thick, laden with unspoken words and unresolved tension. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," Jonathan began, his voice low, "about us, about everything that's happened." Emily's heart pounded in her chest. "And?" Jonathan took a deep breath, his eyes searching hers. "I don't know if I can get past the lies, Emily. I don't know if I can trust you again." Emily's stomach twisted in knots. "Please, Jonathan, give us a chance. I know I made mistakes, but I love you. I want to fix this." Jonathan looked down at his hands, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know if it's enough, Emily. I don't know if I